This is the 17th season of Bass Talk Live with your hosts, Mark Jeffries and Matt Pangrak. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, APCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, Exo Lures, Yamagatsu, The Bass Tank, and Denali Rods. BTL coming at you. Good Wednesday, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where Matt and I are going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, how you doing, man?
There were actually BTL fans who dialed up the Kingfisher live stream and watched you hang in there. We'll get the basketball talk right off. I got to hand it to you, Mark. I looked at the results last night, the last 2 days. We've had a lot of basketball talk that we relate to fishing as being the underdog and what your goals are. You were playing against the number one team in the state that you really didn't think you had a chance to win, but it looked like you hung in there for the second quarter and only lost by 39, which is actually better than the last two teams did.
That is correct.
Well, congratulations.
Well,
you had people watching it. Yeah, look, there's people on the instant feedback here that are talking about how you forced them to shoot the three.
That was it.
How you hung with them until halftime.
Yeah.
Very well done, Mark.
We had a strategy, and, Bijan, how many do you think Bijan had?
Did he go for 50?
46.
Yeah, pretty close there.
But the strategy was, look, simply put, is it easier to flip when you're 3 feet from the object that you're trying to flip to, or 30 feet?
3 feet.
So we were not going to give up anything in the paint. If you're going to beat us,
make it rain.
You're going to beat us beyond the 3-point line.
And it appears that they beat you through. Well, congratulations. Now you're on to your tournament this weekend.
Yeah,
and
moving on.
Good job. It's funny we talk about the underdog stuff. We actually have Carl Jocumsen on today after back-to-back shows with Greg Hackney and Kevin Van Dam, who've been doing this forever, have been in the spotlight, it seems like forever, have always been the favorites going into tournaments. And he's been through it. We won't go through it. But, dude, this is a true underdog story right here.
It is.
Of Carl, who was not an underdog and then chose to become an underdog after dominating in Australia, coming over, and now he's an established pro, making deals, signing deals, has a badass house right there on the shores of Lake Chickamauga, works out 3 hours a day, works on tackle the rest of the time. So be very interested to see how he feels going into this upcoming Bassmaster Elite Series season.
Yeah.
With some new sponsors and a new ride.
We'll get into that. So Carl's going to be on here in about 15 minutes. I want to talk about a couple things first. I casted my ballot for the Hall of Fame.
Cast it or cast?
Which one is
cast it?
Cast.
You cast your ballot.
I cast my ballot. There. This year, I think this is the 4th year that I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't take me that long.
There you go.
I mean, obviously, you know who was on the ballot.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're not really going to talk.
No,
we're not going to talk about it. Not going to talk about it.
Definitely thought there were some first ballot Hall of Famers that were on the list.
And you guys, the committee, everybody that was involved in putting those names on the ballot, I think this year it was dead on. There was definitely some people on there that if they don't get in first ballot, I will be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely shocked. And some people that well deserved because of what they've done in this game over many, many, many years deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. So when is that announcement? Do you know when the announcement is?
I have absolutely no clue.
Couple months, maybe?
I have no idea.
All right.
I just did my first meeting with them. All I did was like 2 sentences.
Are you going
myself.
to Springfield when they do that whole deal?
If they have it, I mean, there's a lot of. Remember, they did the silent auction this past year. We're talking about the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. And they did that silent auction this past year, which they were very pleased with their results on that. So I think they're going to try to continue that. Typically, they do an on-location auction at the Hall of Fame banquet, which they did not have, and they typically do something at the Bassmaster Classic, which they're not going to have, and at the MLF Championship, which they're not going to have. So it's kind of up in the air on how they're trying to bring funds in to enhance that Bass Fishing Hall of Fame.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot because I was thinking about this last night on the drive home after the game, and I've received several emails from people that want me and you to kick off the 20 Feet Deep series again. Mm-hmm. And we've said multiple times on the show, we want to do that. I love doing the documentaries, but it's a matter of time, and like everything else, it's a matter of money.
It's hard to edit when you live under a bridge. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right, Mark?
It's not that bad, dude. It's not that bad.
Speak for yourself. You have UPS stock.
It takes so much time, and it takes a nice little chunk of money to do those things. And let's be honest, we haven't really actively sought after a sponsor for that series, have we?
No.
I mean, we kind of have,
but not
we have.
Really.
Yeah. We've
done a lot of one-offs.
Yeah.
We've done like a Chamber of Commerce on one, and
Yeah. So I was thinking last night, because I was thinking about one of the names that are on the ballot this year for the Hall of Fame, and I want to know if we had an opportunity to do, say, 2 or 3 more 20 Feet Deeps, get a sponsor for it, time-wise, have it available. What are a couple of subjects that you would like to do personally that have taken place in this industry and we haven't really talked about it. I mean, we kind of have thrown stuff at the wall, but...
Well, obviously, my number one is the Michael Bennett story that I've been on for 4 or 5 years on that, and I don't even know if that could happen. That kind of depends on Michael Bennett. But that would be mine. And the way we kind of do these is, Jeffries will take one, and I'll take one, and then that's kind of his project, and then I'll kind of add a little to it, and then I'll take one, and then he'll kind of add a little to mine. Like I kind of did the Steve Kennedy one. Dave filmed, and I edited the Chatterbait one. Jeffries did the Iconelli one. Jeffries did the Life of Bob documentary, Dancing with the Devil. So, I mean, you kind of have to find one that you have the passion for, then go with it. But that would definitely be one. And then I would also like to do the Alabama rig.
That would be cool.
10 years after. It's in 2021 will be 10 years after Paul Elias blew that thing out of the water on Gunnersville. So with all the players around and everything, and there's a lot of really great interviews that you can do with that, from guys who have caught 50-pound bags on it to guys who got it outlawed, talked to the tournament organizations. Was it obviously Andy Poss, the guys there, some of the other deals, the legal aspects of it. Those would kind of be my 2 that I would like to do.
The 2 that I would do, and I've mentioned this on this show multiple times, number 1 on the list is the Tony Christian situation.
Yep, which also depends on a lot of...
20 years later, what really happened.
Now, do you feel like people would be more likely to talk about that since FLW no longer exists?
Maybe, and I would love to go down that path and find out whether or not people would be willing, because I'm sure when that whole thing went down, I'm sure that there were some documents that were signed that said, hey, look, you can never talk about this, or for a certain number of years, or whatever the case is, based upon the penalties that were put into place. Heck, I don't even know if he was ever prosecuted. I don't know. I mean, I don't have the court records. I never really researched the court records to see if anything happened on that. I do know where he is. I have reached out multiple times for him with no results. And maybe the dude just didn't want to talk about it, even though it's 20 years later. Don't know. So I am going to keep working on that. All right. The second one I would title right now and call it The Stage. And what I mean by that is, think about how many people, some have passed away, unfortunately, but think about how many people that have been on the stage of the entire, take it back to when Ray Scott started, all the way through the Bassmaster Elite Series from an MC standpoint, from a tournament director standpoint, from a weighmaster standpoint. How cool would that be to get kind of behind the scenes stories of events that have taken place over history on stage, even behind stage? And there's some people, what happened to them? I know Fishburne is doing the, Bass Champs thing. God, who was the other guy? Keith, what was his name?
Keith Allen?
Keith Allen.
Yeah, he's still in the industry.
Is he still doing the guide thing?
I know he's got a bunch of different irons in the fire.
Yeah.
Maybe dips into saltwater a tad.
Yeah. But just kind of going back and finding out some of the hidden gems that exist from the people that have been on the stage.
Yeah.
So, a couple of ideas there. And then the third one I'm just going to kind of throw in from a tournament director, from a weighmaster perspective, has there been anybody more iconic than Tripp?
Yeah, that would be a very good one. We also have talked about that. I saw John Bird III talk about Alfred Williams, who I believe was one of the pioneers of the frog, and I think a frog one would be a really good 20 feet deep, with going back to the origins and how that started, and then obviously what Alfred Williams did. Rojas always talks about him too, and how Rojas kind of learned it, and then the ways that it kind of swept from the west and then moved to the east and changed, and the rivalries between the mat guys and the open water casting kind of frogging guys, and just how frog fishing has evolved, because I put frog fishing in a category of the big bait, the swim bait guys. There's a lot of guys who are just frog fishermen, just like there are a lot of guys who are just swim bait fishermen. And I think that would be a really cool 20 feet deep as well.
It was funny. Did you see the picture that, I don't know where it was, Dave sent it to me, I think, the Rojas picture?
Yeah, we put the mast on all five of the on the.
That was 20 years ago?
Yeah, the anniversary of the 45 too.
Yeah. That would be a cool story to do. Go back to the place and have him kind of talk about that day and what took place and what's happened over the 20 years based upon that iconic day that he had on Lake Toho. Hey, if you have an idea, throw it out on the instant feedback. Would love to hear some of your thoughts out there, fans. Feel free to do that or shoot me an email. This is something that during 2021, Matthew, I'm really going to kind of do more than dip my toes in the pool and trying to get this cranked back up in 2021.
There you go.
So, all right. What else, Matthew?
I'm looking forward to Frank Scalish tomorrow. I don't know if we're doing a rogue show, but Bassmaster's lead article today is about the rogue.
I don't think the rogue show is tomorrow, but I could be wrong. He usually sends me on Wednesday what he's doing on Thursday, along with some video clips and stuff. So I have not heard from Frank yet. I know he's probably still drowning in his sorrow because of the Browns' loss this past weekend.
Mention that.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of news otherwise that came out. I know I have talked to a number of anglers, especially that are fishing the MLF Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, that they've got everything but their ride. They've got their electronics, their charging, their power poles in. They got their motor.
Yeah.
And they're still waiting on the boat.
Yeah.
And they're a little nervous with that, with the season kicking off there kind of in early February.
How many guys do you think have backups?
Backup boats?
Yeah.
Not very many, because I talked to a lot of guys who are like, man, I haven't had a boat for 3 weeks. A lot of those guys have them sold to other people depending on their deals. Now, if worse comes to worse, do they have access to a boat? Is their buddy? Yeah, I mean, people tend to know people once you get to a certain level, so I'm sure they could have it. But I mean, right now with the season kicking off in a month, there's a number of guys who don't have a boat in the driveway.
Yeah.
We've seen some guys that show up without wraps in the first tournament and stuff, but I don't know.
10%? You think maybe 10% of the guys have some type of backup plan?
Yeah, I would say probably more than that.
20?
Yeah, a lot of guys will have a rig that they can run around the house. It just depends on how easy it is to store and stuff. But, a lot of those guys have anywhere from 2 weeks to a month of not having a vessel.
Yeah.
To ply the waters with.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to do something tomorrow on day 4 with Frank Scalish. Obviously, if you've watched and you are familiar with Frank, he lives in Cleveland. If anybody out there, all right, if anybody out there can produce, and the first one to send it to me via email, anybody that has a Cleveland Barons hat, t-shirt, sweatshirt, hoodie, stocking cap, I don't care. If anybody out there has a Cleveland Barons memorabilia clothing item, shoot me an email with a photo of that item, all right? And I'm going to hook you up with a Bass Tank hat. I'm going to give you a $25 gift card to Academy that you can use. And I've got a special vintage prize pack of jerkbaits that I'm going to give you also. All right? How about that, Matthew?
I wonder if people even know what sport the Cleveland Barons were, because I mean, obviously I do. But I was thinking more of the minor league stuff. You're talking about like the old NHL team?
Yeah. Yeah.
I never knew they were actually an NHL team.
Yeah, the Cleveland Barons. Now, the likelihood of this happening, and folks...
Oh, that's who the California Seals became.
Yeah.
It went... because that's where you were raised, in California.
You know who the goaltender was? You'll never get this.
For who?
He had one of the greatest names in hockey.
In hockey? The goalie for the Cleveland Barons?
Of which was the California Seals. I think he went to Cleveland. His name was Gilles Malash.
Gilles Malash.
Is that not a great hockey name?
Yeah, that is a great hockey name.
Gilles Malash.
Boy, in 10 years, they went from the California Seals to the Oakland Seals to the California Golden Seals to the Cleveland Barons.
Yeah.
And they were only there for 73 years.
It didn't last very long.
There's got to be some vintage... there's got to be some vintage...
Yeah.
Stuff that they've kind of reprinted.
Here's what I'm going to do, all right? If nobody produces that and nobody has anything out there from the great town of Cleveland, I'll come up with something else that's a little bit easier and still give that prize pack away to some lucky BTL listener. All right, man. You ready to take a break? Come back with Carl?
Carl who?
Jocumsen? I'm ready for that. Yeah, my name is not Mark Jeffries. You're smiling.
Yeah, let's come back with Carl.
Oh, dude. Yeah. It is what it is. How many years have I been doing that? For a long time.
Yeah, like I said, Bradley Roy, Bradley Waugh.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to do that when you're in the hockey mood, especially during the winter. More likely to do that.
Yeah. Do you think there's a Gilles Malash jersey out there anywhere?
I'm sure you could get a replica.
Probably cost you a couple $100.
I'm sure you could get a replica.
Probably could.
I played against the Cleveland Lumberjacks in juniors.
Really?
When you came onto the ice, the chainsaw would go. I actually severely fractured my ankle against the Cleveland Lumberjacks in their crappy arena where the boards meet the Zamboni. I was doing like a cool crossover and warm-ups nonetheless. Skate got caught in between the boards and the ice.
Yeah.
Fell over. Out for a month.
Not good. Yeah. That hurt. Yikes. All right. Gonna take a break. Come back with Carl. Everybody stay tuned.
New Active Target by Lowrance.
It exceeded any and all expectations I had.
It really opened up my eyes to things that I never knew happened.
I'm not sure what kind of voodoo they've included in the software, but it's incredibly impressive.
He was messing around, just pitched a little crappie jig in there, and all of a sudden you see the jig come right down in there, and you see the fish come to it. I mean, it was like that.
It's just a complete different universe that we're taking this fishing to. There's no bass safe out there.
Active Target by Lowrance. Game on.
Basscat's legendary 20-foot platform has been paired with angler-approved accessories for 2021. Puma FTD features the proven hull used by many of the top names in bass fishing today, backed by a transferable lifetime warranty. The Puma FTD boasts a full team deck concept which enhances efficiency for you and your tournament partners. Turnkey tournament-winning performance. The Puma FTD SP from Basscat.
While I travel the country on the Bassmaster Elite Series, I simply can't let the weather be the reason I don't win $100,000. That's why I use AFCO clothing to keep me warm, dry, and protected from whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at me. My season depends on it. My career depends on it. AFCO. Any fish, any water.
Everyone, Brandon Polnick here. People always be asking me what I got tied on. And I'm like, X-Zone lures. And they're like, Brandon, why you got X-Zone lures tied on? And I'm like, let me show you why. The bite. Get out of there. Get out of there. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's pretty big. Get in here. Oh, God. Giant. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I think you get the point.
Guys, what makes our Spro lures beat the competition?
I mean, you have to admit, we nailed it with my McSticks and rock crawlers.
Man, we've all won money on my plugs.
My Wamix shop put fish in my boat. One thing's for sure, we all count on our Spro lures to beat the competition.
Designing cutting-edge baits with some of America's top anglers. Spro lures beat the competition. To see the entire lineup, visit a retailer near you or spro.com.
The Ned Rig. What rod should I be using with the Ned Rig? My favorite is the Denali Lithium multi-spin rod. It's our 7'4" length, great Ned Rig rod. It's got a great sensitive tip on it. It's long enough where I can make long casts, which you're usually fishing clear water with a Ned Rig, and it's got enough backbone to get those fish in. So check it out, Denali Lithium Series, 7'4" multi-spin.
Pro-inspired, pro-designed. Tested and proven by legends on the water. Dominating the tournament trail for over 50 years. Everything you need, one legendary brand. Strike King.
Hey guys, Major League Fishing Pro, Jacob Wheeler here with my new Signature Series line of rods with Ducket Fishing. We have my 7.2 cranking rod right here. Crankbaits can be very fickle, and having the right, having a lot of tip can be too much, and having not enough tip can, lose a lot of fish. So you really got to be careful. There's one or two techniques that I'm really adamant about having the perfect action as a crankbait, especially like a square bill, a DT6. Those medium running crankbaits in the springtime, when those fish's mouth are pretty tough, that's when I'm really on top of having my actions just perfect.
All right, we are back on a Wednesday. Mark and Matt in studio. And it is time to go to our special guest. Let's see if everything's working okay here. All right, Carl, you there, man?
Yep, I got you.
All right, hopefully his audio is a little better there, Matthew.
Yeah.
Than yesterday. We had some struggles yesterday with Jason Christie, so we do the test every morning. It worked out great this morning, and we're glad to have you on the show, man.
Yep, thanks for having us. Always good.
All right, going into 2021, man, what's your initial thoughts?
I'm pretty excited. Very pumped. Had one of the, it's the shortest off season, but one of the best ones, one of the busiest ones. But just, every year I feel like you come off the end of the year learning so much, mistakes you made, things that went well, and you seem to put all of that together and regroup and change some things, and then go into the next year sort of just bigger and better. And so I'm never been more excited for 2021. I feel really good.
Dude, you fished over 100 basically professional events now between FLW and Bass. You're a freaking tour veteran now. There's guys who are coming in and are like, man, Carl's been doing this a decade longer than I have. You're established on one of the greatest fisheries in the country on the shores of Lake Chickamauga. Is it weird to be like so established and a veteran now?
Yeah, I haven't had anyone say that, because I definitely don't feel that way. But it's crazy to think. I definitely, constantly am sitting down and just looking at where I've come from and what has happened over my career and what's happened the last couple of years and how things have come together, and just, being so grateful for everything. It's a tough old road. It's crazy, the battles you have to go through. And then what's interesting is it's just life. If you sort of want something a little bit different, you want to chase your dream, you want to really get after something, it's going to be difficult all the way along. And then even after winning an event and getting more established, like, it doesn't get any easier. You keep striving and keep moving forward, and you have to continue to work harder and harder and harder all the time. It's not like I think people get in their heads, and I've definitely been guilty of it, of thinking that, well, if I get to here, then I've made it, and this is what I need to do. I need to get to this point, and then it's like smooth sailing. That's just not life. Life's just going to continually throw stuff at you, and you've got to just get better and learn from it and build and get stronger. And I think you become hardened and tougher as you get through those experiences. So decisions and business stuff and the fishing can get a little easier on that side, because you've had that experience and you know what you're in for. Before that, when you don't know what you're in for, that's when it kind of sucks, when you think like, you're thinking like, when I made the Elites, I thought I'd made it. I'm like, if I make the Bassmaster Elite, first Australian to ever do it, all of those things put together, and I sacrificed everything I've ever had, and 5 years, and bang, I make it after just a ridiculous 5 or 6 year period of my life. It's like the weight of the world come off shoulders. Yeah, wasn't even scratching the surface. I hadn't even begun. Like, I hadn't made it. Like, those next 2 years were the toughest 2 years of my entire life. Like,
I chuckle at this because you've been posting a lot, because everyone's got the winter blues now, and it's hard to come up with content. You've been posting your epic punching fish, lots of photos and videos of you at was Santee Cooper, where you had a chance to win. And I asked that first question because I did a little research. I found a June 2nd, 2011 article by Craig Lamb, who's still out there. Craig's freaking unbelievable rider. He's done this his whole career. But you were like kicking ass in the co-angler side of a tournament, and there's a line buried in this that cracks me up, because you were drilling those fish on a punch rig. And this is June 2011, people. So this is less than 10 years ago. This was Carl's quote. And he's talking about Fred Rambanis. He goes, "I'd never picked up a flipping stick before in my life until he introduced the technique to me," said Jocumsen. "It's a fascinating technique that I hope to learn more about over the summer." It's just crazy how it comes full circle. And now I would venture to say you have dozens of people that are in your inbox that are sending you emails. You're doing Bass University and stuff, talking about, flipping, punching expert Carl Jocumsen. What rod are you using? Line, reel, bait, hooks, the whole 9 yards. And here it is. Here you're sitting there going, dude, flipping's kind of cool. I need to learn how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies, but it's just it's one of those things where the things that I wasn't good at end up being my better things. Like jig fishing was the same. I hadn't thrown a jig in Australia. I didn't know a lot about it, but like because it was new and it was fun and it was exciting and I hadn't done it before, I sort of dove into it way more than the techniques that I sort of understood. And so those ones that I didn't understand, I think I looked into them more than the guys who were actually good at it. And I started learning from them and learning from other guys and taking bits and pieces from it and then doing it myself. And, you know, I eventually became, you know, jig fishing became my confidence deal. You know, it wasn't just a big fish thing. That's what I wanted to throw. And then the same thing happened with punching. And what happened was it was fun. It was cool. It was different. I'd never done it. But then I wasn't good at it. And that's the key. You know, I wasn't good. These guys were killing me doing it. I was watching them. And then I started to get bites, but I lost them all. Like I lost, you know, 80% of your fish. And then it was like you learn and you get a little piece here and there. And then all of a sudden, even though that was 2011, it all came only to this year. Even up until last year, I punched with someone and I lost a bunch again, and I wasn't snelling that. I still was going back to like that stuff that Brandon had talked about and the argument back and forth. And to me, a standard Palomar knot made sense to me with the way it would pull the hook into them. And then all of a sudden, like, the St. John's River last year, the starting, I would have had a top 12, no doubt. I punched those fish just like Paul Mueller was doing, and I lost them all. And that was even after all of them years of like trying to learn. And then that was kind of the final straw for me. I was like, okay, where is it now? And really, I'd done everything right to the rod, the reel, the line, the hook, what I was doing to the hook. I had the bait. And then it came down to the standard Palomar knot or the snell, and the snell, after all of that, changed everything. And then next minute got the opportunity to do it again, and it's the biggest stage in bass fishing on the Santee Cooper, and I get all of those bites and I land every single one of them. And I'm like, that was a 9-year learning curve came together for the tournament.
Because Brandon still ties Palomar when he's flipping, right? Or did he switch to the snell?
I think he switched.
He switched to the snell.
Yeah.
Really? That's big. Because Brandon was like, this is stupid. All these knots are stupid. We tie a Palomar knot. When I start screwing that up, then I'll switch. I mean, he's pretty like, he's done like videos on it.
He has a couple of different ones that I think he more, instead of just going all snell, he has certain situations where he ties one or the other. But I do think he's leaning towards a snell on a certain few things as well. But for me, I saw night and day difference once I started. It wasn't that, like, you can't just snell and everything's going to be good. It's a lot of things. Like a little one that's huge is just kicking that point to the side of a straight shank hook, the owner jungle flipping hook. If you have it straight where that point is in line with the line tie, you will still get that same amount of losses that you were, even if you snell it. You kick it, just that certain...
What do you mean kick it? Like you're torquing it so it's slightly off center?
Yeah, the hook would be like this, dead straight, and I'm kicking that point out like that, so it's offset away from that eye. That alone is a monster, just that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Remember that hook called the Uvella? That used to have it. That was like Ish and Hackney and stuff. Even their wide gaps and stuff, their hook points would never be directly in line with the eye. They had a little bit of torque, I guess, in the hook. And there are guys on the BPT and stuff that don't do videos on it, that do a lot of flipping, that they take pliers to a brand new hook before they tie it on when it's game day. That's interesting.
Yeah. Hey, Carl, real quick, a number of people want to know what your thoughts are on scent, especially with the jig. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's huge. You know, it's so easy to be a little bit lazy and not do it and think it's not anything. It's so big. I've got every different scent you can imagine, every different type. And I've tested them all, and I won 10 killer, no doubt, because of a few things, but scent definitely got me more and better bites and made them eat it better, which then in turn helps you land them when that jig's all the way down their throat. And anything that's a reaction bite, if you're working a lure and a fish is seeing it coming in and eating it, it's basically, you don't really need it. But anything that's moving slow and that fish is coming in and getting a look at it and thinking about it, you have to have that scent. That scent coming off that bait is huge. It's tenfold in winter, 100%. Like, you have to have it on in winter when you're slow fishing. And then as you get through and the fish become more active, it becomes less and less important. And then in summer, you're burning reaction bites. It's even less. And then as it comes in the fall, the fish are beat up and not feeling great and not eating a ton. And then it becomes more important again because they're going to come in and slowly check it out. And you're going to be fishing slow for bites. But fish find bait by scent. They can hear them and they can smell them. They get down current and that scent comes from them. That's how they can track bait schools, bluegill. They can smell all of those things. And so if you are fishing an area and you're using a swim bait or anything winding, even something slow, that fish is going to get behind that and get that scent and then track it and come up on it. And it's taken that second guess out of their brain, basically, like, is that a bait? And then they get big whoop crayfish or shad, and they're like, "That's a fish," and they eat it.
So wait,
that's
I know.
that's
So this
cool.
makes all sense. This makes sense, and I know Carl well enough so I could go down this path. So do you know this, or is this your theory, or how do you know that they're tracking the scent and that it just doesn't make sense in your mind, so it gives you more confidence, so you spray the stuff on it at all times? Or how do you know that they're tracking the scent of the bait going downriver and that it bit it because you had bang on it and that it wasn't just like, oh, there's a jig, and in your mind it was because of the scent, but really it would have eaten it if it had smelled like a tire?
So it's a little bit of both. Like, I've done just tons of study into how fish find certain things, and when things and fish use their sense of smell to find and track things. So they have a nose, they use it, they know the different sense of danger and what's right and wrong to actually eat. So to me, it just, that side of things makes sense. It not just makes sense, that's what they do. Fish use their sense of smell. So that's a huge deal. And there's certain species of fish that actually use that, and where there's current situations, that's how they can pick up when there's oil slicks or when fish feed and crush all the shad up and all of that oil slick gets in the water. Fish can smell that and use it to come in, like what a bear or an animal would do if they smell a kill, something like that. It's exactly the same. And then just through experience, I've seen the difference with a guy in the boat with me and me fishing, same bait, same lure. I'm getting a million bites. They're hardly getting anything. Put scent on it, they start getting bites. Like, I've seen that hundreds of times, to the point where you're just like, where's that scent again?
Okay.
The guy needs to put it on. So it comes from research and understanding how fish work and what they do, and then experience, and then just also that little bit, like you said, just makes sense to me. Like, this is what they're going to be doing. They're coming in on it.
One more then. Shad, crayfish shad combo, garlic, or anise, anise, whatever.
For what situation? Jay wants to know that too.
Yeah, I mean,
well, just anything that makes sense. So crawdad, jig, anything they're eating. Anytime they're eating anything off the bottom, you want to use crawdad scent. I don't use the mixed stuff too much.
Because it confuses them? You feel like it would confuse them? Are they like, it's a shad? No, it's a crawfish. What is it? I don't know. And by then you've reeled in?
Yeah. The scent's going to work. If you have the mixed, I know Brandon uses a mix. I know certain guys that mix garlic and all sorts of stuff. But for me, I just stick with, I'm trying to get them to eat a crawdad imitation. I put crawdad on it. When I'm using a swim bait or a chatterbait, something that swims, I'm going to put shad scent on it. I keep it a little bit more simplified like that. I don't do a ton with the garlic or aniseed or whatever anymore, because I know that does work, and any sort of scent just works if it smells good to them. But I just sort of stick with the basics, the two main ones or the three main ones, bluegill, and stuff like that. And the other thing is that actually what you were saying before with the different scents, I like the oil-based scents. I don't like the paste type scents as much. The paste scents are really good on a swim bait and a Huddleston, and where my study sort of originated from was the Huddleston guys would paste their swim bait with the gel style, because when those fish would eat the Huddleston, they would have it so tight that when they would set the hook wouldn't actually bury into the fish because of the grippiness of the Huddleston material, and the fish would open its mouth and spit it out. So they were using the scent for the fish to get in behind it and track it, because that's what they do with a slow-moving bait like that. And so then they would commit, but that gel paste would actually make it slip through their crunches and through their gill plate and then drive the hook home. And so that is actually something that works with all things as well. It just makes that bait more slippery, but you don't want to use your gel style on anything with a skirt. So if you got a jig, chatterbait, spinnerbait, the gel stuff will make it sticky, and that skirt will stick together and become not natural. So that's why you see me using the Bang and those spray bottle materials, because they're an oil base, so it allows that skirt to still be natural. And I just feel like the oil base keeps releasing. So when they come in on it, it's got like almost an oil slick. So every time I pull that jig out, I dip it in the water and I see if it's still got that oil slick, and I'll keep making a cast. And when it stops doing that, I'll hit it again.
Mark, do you not feel like he should have his own scent line, like Carl's oily scents?
Yeah.
What? I mean, are you working on that? Like, I mean, why do you not? I mean, you sold me on it. Now I believe they're tracking it. They're smelling like, oh, that's
He's got a
crawfish.
case ordered already.
You get them all
Carl.
frenzied up with the noise of the hydro wave. They see it.
Well,
I mean, you got the whole system. Like, why? I mean, dude, I feel like you're missing up. Or are you coming out with something now? Is there going to be like Carl's personal oil?
I'll have to be a combination, be Australian scent used for American fish somehow. But like, how much more evidence do you need with gulp and the power bait and smallmouth? Like, all of those things are all scent related. Like, they're just like, that's all the things where like a guy's using a standard plastic, then they have something that has that crazy scent on it. It's night and day. You have to be using scent. Smallmouth, it's like 100%er. Like, you're crazy if you're using any bait without scent on it. And Brandon, with his Exxon stuff, he was making all sorts of concoctions when he won Champlain. That stuff's soaking.
It's just crazy. I mean, you've got guys like totally convinced that makes a difference, and you got other guys that are like, no, man, if it comes in front of them, they're going to freaking eat it.
All right, I have to ask. This is kind of an old school thing, but has anybody ever told you, or do you know about the whole WD-40 story?
Yeah, that's like, I remember hearing it as a kid fishing for cod. It's funny because whatever happened over here must have just related over to Australia somehow, because I'd heard that as a kid. My granddad used to talk about it, and the aniseed, like, it was like a big deal to get aniseed in a little bottle, and apparently it was the deal, if you had pure aniseed oil. But I'd heard the WD-40 thing, but I'll stick with shad and crawfish scents.
You just catch them hard-working bass with the WD-40.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, man. What was your favorite fish to catch in Australia?
I had two mainly, but like my big one for me, I fish tournaments for Australian bass, but we have a fish called a Murray cod. And it's a big native species just to Australia. And 100% the reason I understood largemouth a little bit better over here when I first got here is that that's the closest thing to a largemouth bass. They're very territorial. They're big, dominant fish, and they're kind of a bit lazy. They just get in on a laydown or a snag. They eat spinnerbaits, top waters, big swim baits, and they grow to over 100 pounds. And that is what really, like when I go home, that's what I want to go and do. That and our barramundi are the two that are just, everyone should experience catching one of those.
All right, so the reason I asked that, is there anything from a tactical standpoint that you have done in Australia that you have brought to the States that people may not know about, but it has brought you success? What would that be?
One of the biggest things, like the FG knot was unheard of when I came over here. Like, no one was tying the FG knot. And so when I went to the US Open in 2009, I think it was, or 2010, I had the FG knot, and I'd learnt the hard way. I worked fishing tackle retail in Australia for nearly 10 years. From when I was 16 years old to when I was 26, I worked full-time in tackle retail, and that helped me. You know, I wanted to talk about it more to kids. Like, if you want to get better at fishing, do some work experience in a tackle store, because that's where I learnt and met so many people. And these giant trevally fishermen came in that were throwing huge poppers for giant trevally, and they were tying this FG knot, and it was a big plaited knot that would connect a 100-pound braid to a 150-pound fluorocarbon leader and would still cast through their guides. And so they showed me when I was about 18 or 16 or something like that, and I was losing our bass all the time to an Albright. I was trying to join braid every different way, and all through the year you would lose a certain number of fish to breaking your leader knot. And so they showed me the FG knot, and I was like, I wonder if it works with lighter line. So we started tying it, and it worked. And then we tied it with 2-pound braid and 4-pound leader, and you couldn't break it. And like a light bulb went off, and I was in the shop by myself, and I had it. And that was when by the time I learned that, I was about 21. And as soon as I learned that, the next year I won Angler of the Year. And then I won like 3 tournaments. Then I won Angler of the Year again. Then I won tournaments. Then I won Angler of the Year again. And no one really knew about it then, because I was just landing everything I caught. And so when fast forward to the US Open, I was using 2-pound braid with 4-pound leader with a 20-foot leader with an FG knot. And I came second, got big bass, and just caught the heck out of fish. And was because that light leader, long lines, and not breaking my leader off. And so those little finesse tricks are more of what has helped me over techniques. But I've definitely got a few things up my sleeve that have sort of worked, and I've seen the light with them, but they've never converted over to actually catching them here in the US. You know, there's been tons of like little things, spinnerbait tricks and stuff, but like a full-on Australian technique that has been competitive for me hasn't really worked just yet.
But you've tried some.
Oh, I've tried probably thousands. I brought every piece of tackle I have to America. So I had 2 suitcases full of tackle, and I've still got it all here. And I'm constantly trying things. You know, we use in Australia single hooks are a big deal. So single hooks on lipless crankbaits, that's the only way Australians will fish it. And so I do a lot of that. And then we put on blade baits, we tie little braid leaders with singles off them that have like spinnerbait skirt. It looks like sort of crawfish claws or something like that, but their single hooks are in amongst. And so any fish that picks something up, those singles just grab them and you land them every time. So I put them on spy baits, I put them on lipless crankbaits, all sorts of things, and just your landing rate goes way up. So it's more like little tricks like that I've been able to do on American techniques. But as far as just a straight Aussie technique, haven't had anything like it catches fish, but not tournament winning or anything.
Right.
Fly one away because I'm the only one doing it. I'm hoping one day.
First time I saw the FG knot was with Carl. We were fishing a team tournament on Lake Eufaula, and it had been 2010, 2011 maybe. Yeah. And I was like, all right, let's go throw a square bill. And Carl's like, oh, okay. And I just see a KVD 2.5 just go flying past me, and it like never stops. And he's throwing it on a spinning rod with the FG knot. And I just remember being like, my God, he just cast that to the moon, but that's not how we do it over here. And he's like, why not? He's like, it doesn't break and I can cast it a lot further. I was like, you got a fair point on that.
Yeah.
But that was the first time I'd ever seen the knot. I mean, it's like probably an inch and a half long. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, that's a knot that you can't tie. And I still can't tie it.
I've taught Fred, Jeff Cree, like I taught all the guys, and it's been funny to see it like spread through the elites and stuff. But like even those guys are like, I tried to show Ike and Ellie, and I was in his boat and I'm showing Ike, and he's like, yeah, that looks easy. And then he jumped in, and then like 30 minutes later, I'm like, hold your finger over there and adjust this. And he's like, this is ridiculous. But once someone fishes with it and you watch it over and over on YouTube, like that's just the knot to tie.
All right, Dave wants to know, what is your favorite all-time flipping bait?
Flipping bait, it all depends, you know. Just really, I just have two, like a beaver style bait. If they want it to be a slow falling and a spiral type fall, which is sometimes what they want. Like a beaver style is going to do a spiral, and it's going to be pretty natural. And then your other bait is like something with action that actually has action in the claws, and it's going to fall straight vertical. So normally I have two of those on the deck, one of each, and I see which one they want. Sometimes they want it to be moving and more erratic, like what a beaver style would be, and sometimes they want it to fall straight on the head with that action. So pretty much those two are the baits that you want to put. You want to have one of each and then see which one they want.
All right. How much fishing have you been able to do during the break on your home lake there on the Chick?
It's been pretty frustrating because I haven't had a boat. I heard you guys talking about it came on, and I'm definitely not going to learn I didn't learn a lesson. It just the way it happened, but I definitely don't want to be without a boat because I like fishing through the off season. I fish through the off season. I try and do some hunting, but I never like having a big break. I like to fish all the time and stay sharp. And this is a good time to test new baits. Outside of the tournament season, we rarely get a decent enough break where you can go and put new baits or new ideas to the test. And I sold my last year's boat as soon as the season ended, and then with everything going on, my boat, my new Falcon, is just ready now. Just had it on the water. So one thing is I've had a bit of a break, but I kind of needed it at the same time. At the end, when I'd finished that last Open, the last week of December, like it was the first inkling I got of where I was like, man, I need a break. Like I just started feeling like I'm buggered. Like I'd gone 2 months straight fishing, just back to back to back to back, and it hadn't ended. My body and everything was it was sort of beat up, and I'm like, I'm ready to just have a bit of a break. So it has been good for that because I'm so jacked up now. I haven't fished a ton, and I'm like more excited and I'm ready to go after the season. So that's been good. But at the same time, like this year, I'll definitely try and organise it to where my boat would come in and I would still have this boat to be fishing out of and try and roll out of it so you're not without a boat. But sometimes you can't help it.
You have a whole year under your belt now since your win at the end of the season on 10 Killer. You said you thought, when you made the Elite Series, oh, I made it. Now I'm here. But no, you had to do a lot of work. Then you win one. What is the residual effect of that now? You're an Elite Series champion. You've had a whole year through it. I mean, did you have sponsors throwing money at you? Was life a lot easier after it? Was it just something to add to your resume? What effect did that and does that have on you 1 year removed from the win now?
Yeah, no, life-changing, 100%, absolutely life-changing, no doubt. Zona messaged me about 6 months ago, and he's like, what's it like after you win? And I just said, better. And he's just like, things are good, because I came into this sport sort of scratching and clawing for any support that I could get. I didn't have money behind me or anything. Like I'd gone broke, in debt, credit cards, the whole lot, and fought my way back and come back to square one. And I lived out of the back of the truck, lived in a secondhand camper, stayed at people's houses, Gene's shop. Like I somehow got through all of that. I had no established establishment to where I felt like comfortable ever. I was always all over the place. I had tackle all over the place. It was frustrating for me because I'm very like organized and I want to have the right stuff, my stuff in place and do things correctly. And I just could never do that. But I knew I had no other option. I was just trying to survive the whole time, whatever I could do. And so the win, one, solidified my mind and the sacrifices that I'd gone through, that I was on the right path and I had been doing the right things. It just took that long to show me that, to show me that it's really what I wanted and I was doing the right thing the whole time. I just had to be patient. And before that, it's very frustrating to think like, man, am I doing all of this work and is it ever going to happen? And you're seeing success all around you. So for my mind and the sacrifice and all the things I'd been through, it helped me more than anything to take that weight off my shoulders. I got to do it and then my fans and then my sponsors, like all of those sponsors that have been behind me, supporting you. You're going to do it. This is going to be your year. And as much as I worked hard supporting them and showing and social media and content and all of that, getting a win really lifts everything up. And so now even when I talk about techniques and stuff like that, people and American anglers are just going to take me a little bit more serious, know what I'm talking about. You're trying to get basically credibility. And it's hard to get credibility when you don't have a win or anything like that. You've had some success, but that credibility behind me now has helped huge. So over that win got us to buy our place in Chattanooga in Tennessee and move to like the ultimate place where I can learn and fish, have our own home base, get my tackle set up, have a spot for my boat, just get things way more comfortable living and more organized fishing wise. And then sponsor wise, it was night and day. Instead of me fighting and going after everything I can, trying to get as many people together and almost having to convince this is what I'm going to do and this is what I can do, and trying to pull sponsors together. I had more sponsors reaching out, and the sponsors that were already with me were just like, it just rolled over. Everything become just a little bit easier on that side of things. So although it's still hard and it's still difficult and it's still a ton of work, I've been in front of this computer for 6 weeks straight, just phone calls and emails. It has not ended, and I get a little hunt in the afternoon or I fish down here or try and fish, but it's computer work and phone calls for months, and it's back and forward, and it's the hardest work I do all year is the last 6 weeks by far. Like, I can't wait to go fishing. And this is where you set yourself up to have a good year and have a successful year, or have a year that you can get through no matter what happens tournament results wise. So I feel like people tend to back off and relax and chill through the off season, but that's when everyone does their contracts. That's when they all do their budgets, and you need to be on it the whole time and putting yourself out there and showing them what you can do for them and getting it done, so then you can have a successful year.
It's crazy, Mark. All that because of a can of Bang. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, I know it's crazy. It's patience, and there's a lot there's just so many lessons, and I learned lessons this year. It never ends. You never know it all. You're constantly growing and moving, but getting that win definitely just helped in every aspect of my life.
You ever had a meltdown? You're always so positive. You talk about how you struggle to do it. Yeah. Like, have you ever had the throw in the crap, I'm freaking done, I'm going back to Murray cod, screw this? Like just a full out, like, I'm done working out, I'm eating pizza, drinking beer, and fishing for Murray cod. Screw American bass.
Nah, I've never had a meltdown. It's more like I hate losing, and so this is the most losingest sport in
It is.
You better be good at losing, and I'm not. I hate losing, especially when you put everything you can into it and it's like still not enough. That's where this sport is super frustrating, because sometimes there's just nothing you can do. You can't get that thing with a little brain that bites your lure. That's what it comes down to in the end. And it doesn't matter how good you are, what you've done in the past. There's just sometimes it's not going to happen. But for me, it's that, it's handling that disappointment and moving forward and then coming at the next one with the same sort of enthusiasm that you went into the one before. That's the most important. The little meltdowns, breakdown, that's not really anything. Getting frustrated at losing a fish probably. But for me, there's never been another option. Like, there's never been like, oh, I'm going to quit and go home because this is hard. If I did that, like, everyone wins that ever told me that I would never be anything. So that right there is enough for me to be like, that's just not even an option.
Wow. All right. I have a couple of random business questions. And if you don't want to answer them, you don't have to. I'm just curious. Yep. And some of the people on the instant feedback also, do you have dual citizenship still?
Yep. No. So pretty, that's probably a bit of a nightmare situation for anyone that's trying to live in America. It's been, so I've been here for 10 years. I flew back and forward to Australia and here 4 times the very first year I was here. So I could stay for 89 days and then fly back to Australia. I'd have 2 days in Australia and I'd fly back. And I basically blew all the money that I had, like in flights and stuff. Like, that was a crazy amount of money I spent just in flight. So year 2, I was like, I can't keep doing that. So I looked into it and I had support from some people over here and I got a sporting visa, which I got through fishing and having an employer over here. And that gave me a 3-year sporting visa. So that cost $7,000 for 3 years. So I did that. And then it ended, and 3 years went like the blink of an eye, and I had to do it again. So I did it again, and there was another $7,000, and then that went like that. And then I did it again, and that was another $7,000. That's attorney fees, government fees, all of that, and it's paperwork as thick as you can imagine. The worst stuff I ever want to do, and it's just non-stop. And so then it ran out, and I got a 1-year one, and then I had that the previous year. And then Kayla and I got married in October 2019, and then we applied for a green card, which would basically allow me to come back and forward in Australia and earn money in the US and live in the US. And it was just as much paperwork and the same deal. Like, everyone's like, oh, you're good now, you got married. And it's not. It's the complete opposite, because it's happened. People have, done that.
You have to prove that you love her.
Yeah, you have to prove it. And luckily, our whole life is sort of documented, but basically paperwork as thick as you can imagine. Kayla had to sign everything. Like, it's come down to where like on Kayla's family side, like, say I just said, I'm not fishing anymore and I'm just going to sit at home and live off the government. Like, Kayla's family would have to then pay for like my way if I cost America any money. Like, that's how locked down they get it, to where like you can't just manipulate the system. And so my visa ran out, but I've got everything in. So we've got the application and it's been approved, and now we have to have a meeting in Nashville at some stage this year, and then they go over everything and interview you, and then another $7,000. And then hopefully I can get a 2-year green card. Then we have to go back, have another interview again, and then I can get like a lifetime one. But, we've had to show holiday photos and photos of our wedding and get affidavits from people at the wedding. Like, you have to have like a laundry list of things in check. And if one of those are out, you haven't got it. And then
I didn't know that.
And then with COVID, everything got delayed. So I was supposed to have this done and then rolled into the green card, but instead everything's like in limbo. So it's been a little difficult lately because I haven't been able to get like my driver's license and stuff like that. So I've had to go through all these loops to try and get my Tennessee driver's license back, and then make things easier like that. Because if I got pulled over, I'd have to have all of this paperwork to like.
Oh my gosh, dude! I had no idea.
No, I mean,
I feel for you.
Like in the before you started dating Kayla, did you ever have just like random fans come up and be like, "Hey, Carl, I'll marry you for your green card so you can stay"? Like, did you ever run into that in previous years? Like,
it was an option I was thinking about. It was like, how do I not have to go through all of this? But most people don't realise that, you know, getting married and getting a green card is no different to me applying for a sporting visa or a working visa. It's exactly the same, but it's actually probably a little bit more because you've got to prove stuff on the other side as well, like Kayla's side.
Wow.
Clay says he should have just got into Mexico and then swam across the Rio Grande.
That was also an option.
No, I didn't realize that. And he didn't left out the whole part that he's already been through where all his crap got stolen and he had to redo all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then the money on top of it and then not living. Having a place to live.
I don't know what the exchange rate is. I didn't look it up between the U.S. dollars and Australian dollars. But I'm curious, if you ever had a contract where they paid you in Australian dollars rather than U.S. dollars?
Yep. So that's how I got, you know, for my first couple of years. So my first 2 years was supported by me. I sold everything I owned. I sold my truck, my boat, every piece of thing I had at home that I could sell. And then the fishing tournaments back home did fundraisers for me, and they raised like nearly $20,000. And just in we did a big tournament. We had like a fishing tournament. We had auctions and stuff, and just the little bass fishing community to send me to help me come to America raised $20,000, which was crazy. But the dollar, so I had all that Australian money all put in an account, and it lasted me not quite even 2 years basically of competing over here, because every time I transferred it over, I'd lose like $3,000 or more. So right now, I think the dollar's around 70. So if I have 10 grand and I transfer it over here, I'm probably going to get like $6,500 US. Like $3,500, $4,000 just vanishes into thin air. You don't know where it went. It's just gone.
Oh, we're used to that though because we're tournament fishermen.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
And so that. Over those first few years, I started getting support from Hobie Fishing Australia and Miller Rods and Bassman and my Australian sponsors like that had got behind me. And so they were paying me into an Australian account, and then I would watch the exchange rate like crazy. And if it ever rose or got good, then I would transfer some money over. And then basically it got to the point where I was losing a lot of money in flights and exchange rates, and like all that money I'd saved. I would call it like Gene tries to put it in perspective a little bit, like I paid for a college degree or fund or an apprenticeship. And my first 2 years was like my apprenticeship here, and all that money just went, like my truck, my boat, stuff I'd saved up my whole life. All that money just got spent in 2 years, and I just had nothing. And I was like, and then it was like, do I just go home now and everything's done and gone? And then just chipped away somehow, and Hobie got behind me and Miller Rods got behind me again, and then an American sponsor, and then Hobie America chipped in and paid some US dollars, and just it's literally been a scratch and claw process like that, to where now very small amount is paid into my Australian account. I have Bassman spinnerbaits and Hummingbird and Minn Kota Australia support me, and then the rest try to support me from the American side of the company. So Rapala Australia just got behind me, but they will pay through my American account. So not as much comes from the Australian side as anymore. It's like almost 90% US based.
Well, I know it's not fishing related, Matt, but that is an incredible story just from a financial standpoint. What he has had to go through and the amount of money that he's had to spend.
Well, I knew that it was like that back in the day. I didn't realize he was still going through it.
Oh my gosh, dude! I feel for you. That is just an incredible story, and it's unfortunate that you had to spend so much money just to fish.
And it still isn't done.
Yeah.
No, and it's still not done. But, you know, it's there's one thing I want to try and like do it to make it easier for someone else, but at the same time, like I like that it's so difficult because then it's going to be hard for other people. Like I don't want it to suddenly become so easy that I don't like doing anything that everyone can do. It's like you go on a trail where every single human can just walk 200 and see like a beautiful like waterfall or view or something. I want it to be where like you gotta earn it to get there, and then you will be rewarded with that. And if stuff becomes too easy, then everyone can do it, and then what I do doesn't have as big a value. So like I want it to be easier in certain spots. I think it sucks in a lot of the different ways, and I'm working hard even with Bassmaster to see some changes of how we can make the sport better. But easier. I like that the guys whoop me every time, that the guys catch them non-stop, and you're like 29 pounds at this lake at what the heck on that day one. But that just makes you get better, and it makes it that the guy coming up is going to have to really want it and earn it to get there. I don't want it to be anyone can just do it.
No, that's cool. That's cool stuff. All right. Several people want to know, obviously, your involvement in the kayak realm. What are your thoughts about the future of kayak fishing, your involvement, and just your general thoughts about is that another aspect of the game that's just going to continue to grow?
Yeah, it's a not the cool thing about Hobie and kayak fishing is it's not just it is a great feeder system to eventually become a full-time pro, because you can afford a kayak. You can get in a kayak as a kid. It's how a lot of us grew up fishing. But now they've made it to where you can be a professional angler in the kayak series that actually earns big money, has sponsorships, companies getting behind them. And it moves the needle massively with a bunch of companies, fishing, tackle companies, kayak companies, and all the accessories that come with that. So kayak fishing has blown up, tenfold. And what's funny is when Hobie, Steve Fields, back in Australia, he's actually from the US and he's moved back to the US, and he's one of the biggest guys in behind Hobie. He saw me and saw what I was doing, and he wanted to support me. And at the time, there was no other kayak companies supporting bass fishing at all in the tournament side of things. And I sort of thought to him, like, I'm not going to fish or compete out of a kayak. And he said, no, like he wants the Hobie fishing brand and the Hobie kayak to be seen as a professional angler at the highest end, fishing out of the biggest, baddest bass boat you can get. It still wants to fish out of a kayak because the way it's set up and the way it has it, like we're still using it in our off time or competing. And so Steve actually had to convince people that he wanted to get behind me. And what's so cool is that they are still my major sponsor today after 8 years. They're still my number one sponsor. And now all of the kayak companies, that's the first thing they do. Like when they come in, they go straight to a professional angler and sponsor them. And that was unheard of back when they first did it. And that all come from Steve's sort of idea and what he believed in. And then me sort of, I guess, converting it and showing that it actually worked, that branding and the Hobie on the side, and then me competing or fishing out of it. And from there, it's turned into now there's Hobie World, and there's Hobie tournaments all over the US, Australia, and it's huge. So it's something that I enjoy doing, and everyone sort of says to me, when are you going to fish kayak tournaments? And I do want to do them, but for me, when I stop competing, my kayak is like my escape. I touch that kayak and Rue jumps onto the top of the Hobie and it's still in the shop and she's sitting on it and I'm trying to wheel it out of the shop, and that's my thing. And me and Rue, we go down to the lake, there's no other boats, or I go to a river where there's not another angler and I just go fishing, and that's sort of my bit of a break. But that's what's cool about kayak fishing. You don't need a trailer. You don't need a big truck. You just need a little place to fish, and you can put that kayak in the back and a fishing rod and a paddle, and away you go. So it's a great stepping stone, a starting point, but you can also take it to traveling the world and fishing in Sweden, Australia, America, and competing against these hardcore kayak anglers that are some of the best fishermen and fishing women in the world. They're killing it.
Nice. Very cool. All right. I'm still going to stick to my word and do it. It's just going to warm up a little
Illinois
bit.
And jump in one of JD's kayaks.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about X Zone that you just signed with here. Seems like they've been making a big push, and they got Brandon last year, and now you're jumping on.
Yeah, I got big shoes to fill because they pulled Brandon on, and then he won 2 tournaments. I'm like, I don't know what your expectations are, but we need to. Brandon definitely just killed it for him. But yeah, just they're actually. The guy that I've been dealing with is from Canada, and just have a lot of similarities talking to him about Canada and Australia. It's kind of funny, and just got along really good. You just get a good feel when you talk to someone from the business side of things. And for me, I've learned too over the last just a couple of years, and especially last year, just taking on sponsors that. And I've always gone by this of stuff that I use anyway. If it's difficult for me to promote it and think about how I can get content for it, then I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. And so X Zone, I had half of their baits already. I've been using the Slammer since 2010, smallmouth fishing, and then just seeing the technology behind what they're doing to their baits, and then me being able to have some input in designing my own stuff and my own ideas, and them actually going to listen. So, you put all those things together, and it was a no-brainer for me.
So you're going to be designing stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, going to be.
Or you already have.
Colors. There'll be some stuff coming up.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very nice.
That's a big thing with all of my sponsors. Like, that's half the fun. Like, I don't want to just have a sponsor that pays you and then you promote their logo or rep their logo. Like, part of this whole thing is them being able to listen to you, them believing in you, and then you being able to test the product and saying this needs changing, this doesn't work, and making those little adjustments. That is the most rewarding part about being sponsored, not getting money from them and then you putting a logo on your boat and jersey. It should not ever be about that. It should be they're supporting you to put their product through the hardest test possible, and then you coming back to them and saying, I think this should change. I think this is good. This color's awesome. Can we add this? And same with Mustang and my jackets and, and my boat. All of those things, when you work with a company that's going to listen to you and then adjust, that's the funnest part about it. And that's kind of what it should be about, because that's really what they want from you, to sell the product, show it to people and people that want to see the new stuff, but then also work on making stuff better or creating new products.
What are you doing video-wise this year?
I'm still working hard to make it happen. That's probably the biggest thing that's frustrating for me is I want to do the recaps and I want to do the video, and it's hard. It's so hard to, like, Bud Cipoletti could do stuff with me, but and he will do it for me, just for me, but I want to get him paid and pay for his time and all the things that come along, and it's so hard to get a separation from your sponsor dollars that's looking after you, and then that's just this whole other huge cost that has been hard for me to try and establish and then get someone, and everyone wants to see it and I want to do it. I just got to get some backing and support from either someone that just sponsors the video side of things, so I'm able to do it. But otherwise, between me and Kayla, we knock out the good little videos and stuff. But as far as the high production value tournament recaps, it's been kind of hard to. But that's what I work on the most, trying to make that happen.
You don't have to answer this either, but what? Let's just say you want to have someone do a high-end production recap of your tournament and follow you around. I mean, is that thousands of dollars? I do all mine, but it's a GoPro on a laptop, and I put it out there, and there's a lot of photos of my butt on the front of a boat deck. But then you see, Brandon, we've seen what you've done in the past, what those guys do, and they're like, oh, well, those guys do it. Well, they just hire someone. So, you as an angler, you're coming out of your pocket for that production, right?
Yeah. Yep, pretty much most of the time. Like I would try and when I've done it in the past, basically I just want to show my worth to my sponsors by doing it. Like I want it. It's just an added thing, but it's gotten to where like it's just you can't really do that. You have to have the support of that to pay for it because the cheapest end would be like $1,500 to get it do it, and the normal is like $3,000. Like that's kind of cheap to do a full like 25-30 minute video recap, them being there from like one day of practice right through the tournament, and then all of the edits that come off that, and then the little clips. It's a lot of work for the camera guy and the edit, to do it all. So it's worth every cent. You just sort of got to get you either got to try and make it to where you can just get it and afford it out of your pocket and see the bigger picture of it, or have a sponsor actually sponsor that video series for that year. And that's kind of what I'm working on now.
That's insane. So, like, if you just do the whole series and you're not covering their travel, you're not covering their food or anything, you're like $30,000 in just on the editing. And I somewhat understand the editing, talk with guys who edit and understand how difficult that is and how many hours go into just that. And then you talk about the 1-minute Instagram clips and all the social media, the still photos and everything that goes into it. I don't think a lot of people realize, dude, to be like fair, like even fair, like not even make a lot of money, like find a guy who's like, dude, I get to follow the Elite Series and this is a great stepping stone and I'll even do it at a discount. You're like $40,000 in for the entire year. And that's if the guy like lives with you.
Yeah. And then think of like accommodation and then a boat driver. A boat driver is not going to bring his boat. Like when I started to realize it was when I started getting into it and I was really doing it and Bud was helping me and he's doing it for just his costs basically for free, but I'm just going to pay for everything and just paying for everything, accommodation, a camera boat, then going and you're filling your boat up, then you're filling his boat up.
Oh yeah, you make a 40-mile run, he makes a 40-mile run.
Yeah. Then you pay him, he's not doing it for free. He wants $500 at a minimum to be there 2, 3, 4 days following you around all over the lake. It gets out of control and it's a lot of work. Like what Brandon does is ridiculous. Like I don't know how people just see the video and they're like, that's freaking cool. There's things behind the scenes behind that, the work, because it's a whole other thing that you're going to be thinking of. But Brandon has Kyle, which is what you need. Like they get along, they're good friends. Kyle's easy. You have to have a good working relationship because they're basically living with you on the road the whole time. So that's a big one too, is finding someone that you can basically live with while you're out there, and then make it fun because it's a ton of work. It's another extra thing that you've got to be thinking of. So for me, I just wanted to make sure it didn't affect my fishing, and at certain stages it had, because I should be working on tackle and I'm worried about trying to find a boat driver, and can't find someone for the camera guy, and that's a balance that you got to make sure you're sort of right in the middle there.
And then you finish 100th, and you're like,
oh,
deal with this. Great. Now I just spent that for 2-3 pound fish.
Yep. Yeah, it happened to me a bunch of times. You just have a terrible tournament, and you got to be like, you got to act good. You got to put on a happy face and be like, yeah, that was tough. And you're just thinking about all the things that you just went through to try and get this. And
I love Carl's. He'll have like 2 or 3 pounds one day, and he's like, oh, there's a 30-pound bag out there. Like, it's just your optimism is always so frightening. It's like, dude, the biggest bag of the tournament was like 11 pounds or a table rock. And he's like, oh, it's out there. I had him follow the glider. Maybe all 5 of them will eat it and I'll cash the check. And then it's happened sometimes. It's freaking happened before. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah. It's happened.
All right, Carl, man, thank you so much. Man, we went almost an hour.
I know.
Over.
Well, he's
over an hour.
Established he doesn't really have much on his plate. So he's not
No, that's just great stuff. And really appreciate you opening up about the challenge and really the quest that you've been on to the success that you've had and really established now as one of the guys at the top of this game. So I know the fan base loves it, man.
One of the fans is suggesting that you start having a lot of children and then you'll get tax breaks.
No, the good part about you guys and podcasts and stuff, it is starting to show the real side. And I've been guilty of, you look at my Instagram or social media or anyone's, and it looks like everything's unbelievable. And then you see the comments and stuff of, I posted the thing of the hummingbirds the other day, and someone will be like, man, you can't hide money, and you're like, well, and I said back to one guy, I'm like, you can't hide 20 years of sacrifice and hard work. That's what more it is, but people like to see like, oh, he's got a ton of money. But the more that you guys do this and the more that the Bass guys, I think, just open up a little bit and talk about how it really is, hopefully people just understand it a little bit more. So it's been cool to listen to you guys and listen to other people because it's getting out there more. It's not all fairy tales. It's just a bunch of hard work. Anyone that's made it in any sport or any business, it's just a bunch of hard work. What you guys do, it's a ton of hard work and time. It doesn't matter what it is. So the more we get that across, the better, I think.
He's right. Dead on, man. Hard work.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right, Carl, man. Wish you the best this year, and we'll see you soon, hopefully, at one of the stops. And good luck to you, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Take care, man.
See ya.
See ya.
All right, there you have it. And good dude, man. Really, really good dude. And you had the opportunity to fish with him and get him to really kind of know him in the early stages of his career.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I remember I would talk to people and I would be like, what is this dude doing? Like, how is he doing this? Because he would be like at a spot, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to the next Elite Series. What are you doing? He's like, I'm just going to stay here for the next 15 days. Where are you going to stay? I'm not sure. I got this hotel for 2 days and maybe I'll find someone and then something and blah, blah, blah. And we're just like, what's kind of the end game for this guy? Yeah. And then you start realizing that he's really dedicated, and then he starts doing some good things and figures it out, and then he makes it, but then he gets his head caved in, but he doesn't stop and he keeps going and he continues to make it. Then he has some good tournaments, and then he'll like do a video or something and you'll be like, oh, I just learned something from a guy who hadn't caught an American bass 5 years ago. And then you realize he's literally as good as you are, and you've been fishing for 25 years, and it's because of the hard work and the work ethic. And then you realize he's better than you.
Yeah.
And then you realize, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's cool to watch someone, but it's not like, oh, he was naturally talented and it happened over 10 years. And I preach this all the time. It's the same hours to master it, to get good at it. He's just crammed it into because of his dedication and his unwillingness to give up and his single focus and putting himself in a position where he doesn't have anything to think about. He's putting the same hours that a guy who started when he was 10 or 15 tournament fishing and worked all his way up and then made it as a pro when he was 30. He's got all that same hours in there.
Yeah.
He just did it in 4 or 5 years. And like, you can sit down, and I've done it, and I need to do it again, like actually in an article, but you can sit down and do the math and see how little a dedicated tournament angler that's trying to make it through the opens or the coasters and fishes team tournaments, how little of their actual hours of their life is spent on the water learning. It would shock you. Like, how many days on the water do you spend a year? Oh, 150, 200. Like, no, really? Really? Like, actually go back and see how many hours you spent on the water, like where you were dialed in, and it's like 50, 60. And then a guy like Carl, who actually is 200, you're cramming years into months and decades into years and building and building and building on it, and then add it to the talent and the dedication, and that's how you get there. Mm-hmm. That's how those young guys got there. Jordan Lee, Jacob Wheeler. No one, I don't feel like, yeah, you can have an innate natural ability to do it, but I do not feel like fishing is a sport because of how many variables and how you respond to those variables and decision making. There's no way that you can just naturally make good decisions, in my opinion, because it's based on your experience. Decisions is based on your past experience and your ability to predict what happens in the future. Would you not agree?
Yeah, and a lot of that, too. I agree with that, but a lot of it is what you do in your work ethic.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
In preparation, and not only on the water, but off the water, too. Mm-hmm. That's drastically changed over the years. Yeah, but I think you're dead on. Dead on.
So much time on the water.
Dude, I had no idea about all the stuff that he has went through from a green card standpoint and the money.
Yeah, I didn't realize the money. Like I said, I thought it was get hitched and you're golden.
Just all those years, $7,000.
I've watched too much 90 Day Fiance. They don't ever go into that part on TLC.
You watch that?
They just go into the emotional and mental
Seriously,
strain.
you watch that?
Well, I've seen it.
I
mean, it's not like it's not on DVR. But if it's on, I'll take a peek. Yeah, bring him over from Spain. Guy doesn't speak any English.
So most of those turn into a train wreck.
He's
anyway.
in Staten Island. Chick's mom hates him.
They're
They're talking about the meltdown they had at the restaurant. They should have been talking about the 3-year process to get him over here if it actually does work out.
Jeez. Great stuff from Carl. Man, really, really good stuff. I thought I had a winner. I'm sitting here looking at my email. I thought I had a winner, and then he came clean.
A winner?
A winner.
Oh, for what?
For the Cleveland Barons jersey or memorabilia.
Oh.
He just screenshotted something and sent it to me, and then he sent me another email and said, hey, man, sorry. I don't really have that. I just screenshot.
I mean, if you really wanted it, you could. I would like the California Seals because that was really cool.
That's way back.
Weren't they teal and white?
They were teal and gold.
Teal and gold.
Because I remember the official magazine, when you went to a game, the official program was called Goal Magazine.
So you've been to a California Seals NHL ice hockey game.
Yeah, when they played the Kings, and then also in San Francisco, long time
Is that
ago.
when the Kings had the hideous uniforms?
The purple and gold.
With the crown on it?
Yeah.
No, they had another uniform like in the 80s. It was awful. Those are classic.
Yeah, the gold and purple.
Yeah.
Anyway, they played at the old Cow Palace in San Francisco.
Does that even exist anymore?
I don't even know if it's still there or not.
The Cow Palace?
Yeah, Google it up.
Why would they call it that?
It was an iconic arena in the San Francisco. There's no way it's still there. I can't imagine
it's still there. It's an indoor area located in Doll City, Tennessee. What the heck? Tennessee, because we had Carl on. Daly City, California. Daly City, California. Yeah, there's a picture of it. It's got Cow Palace in red across it with the big arch. It's still
there. Huh?
It's still there.
Yeah.
They obviously do things because it was also known as the California State Livestock Pavilion. So I would assume that the renaming of the Cow Palace, there are probably a lot of big-time cattle auctions.
Yeah. Anyway.
Do the Golden State Warriors still play there?
No.
Really?
No.
It says tenant Golden State Warriors.
No, they don't play at the Cow Palace. Are you kidding me? They just built a brand new arena. Like the Visa Arena or MasterCard or something. I don't know. Paid a ton of money. Anyway, Gilles Malache was on the cover of Goal Magazine when I went to the Seals Kings game. When I was a kid, I remember that. How I remember that, I have no idea. Goal Magazine, man. Had all the covers. That was a big thing between me and my friend whose dad played for the Kings to collect all the Goal Magazine covers when the teams came to town.
They got minor league hockey.
At the Cow Palace?
Until the team folded in 2014. Now there's some minor events that go on there. Man, they've had a lot of events that went on.
Oh, that place has been there forever.
The Cow Palace.
I mean, forever. Never heard of the Cow Palace.
No, I had. They had the 1964 Republican National Convention.
At the Cow Palace?
Yeah.
Did they really? Wow. Yeah. All right. Tomorrow, Frank Scalish, day number 4. Everybody, check that out. Not sure what Frank's going to talk about tomorrow, but I guarantee it's going to be good. And the feedback that I've received from the fans that just thoroughly enjoy Frank and what Frank talks about, it's going to continue tomorrow. The other thing is, I did say early in the show, if you have any Cleveland Barons memorabilia that you have in your possession,
like NHL Cleveland Barons, you have to because there's been
not
a bunch.
Minor
there's
league
been
team.
junior league, there's been minor league teams.
No, the Cleveland Barons NHL team. Just shoot me an email with a photo with that memorabilia, with you.
And you're willing to pay for it?
No, I'm gonna send.
Oh, you're gonna barter.
Yeah. I'm gonna give them some stuff.
Oh, okay.
I just think it's cool if any of that stuff is still hanging around.
I posted remember the starter jackets?
Yeah.
That zipped, that had the S, the pouch.
Yeah.
I posted me in a picture of a starter jacket, and I had a St. Louis Blues starter jacket that I got in the mid 90s.
Yeah.
And I posted it on Instagram when they were going through their Stanley Cup run, and I hashtagged let's go blues. I was inundated with people saying, whatever you want, however much it is, I need that. And then I started looking, and they're like hot commodity.
Really? Collector's items.
And I was emotionally torn because it was my favorite jacket growing up.
You didn't do it, though, did you?
It did not fit. I mean, it stops at the sleeves, but apparently it is the hottest retro item going in the St. Louis area.
Please tell me you
Literally,
didn't sell
they
it.
said, whatever you did, just tell me how much it is.
Please tell
We'll send
me you
the
didn't
money.
sell it.
It's still in the closet.
All right, good
Did
job.
not sell it. It's in mint condition, though.
Yeah. By the
I am
way-
fishing all night open, so it might be sold in the near future.
Hey, did you see the video of the America's yacht, I guess is what you call it, in the America's Cup?
No. Oh, is that the one that flipped over?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a poor decision on someone's part.
Wow. Did you see how much that boat cost?
It's millions, wasn't it?
$80 million.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean,
to win a cup.
No one ever accused high-level yachting of being a
$80 million
blue-collar sport,
for
did they?
that thing. Good grief.
You're going to have to cut a couple people off the polo team to pay for that.
Sell a couple of Ferraris, I guess. I don't know. Gee, I couldn't believe that when I saw that. $80 million. All right, folks, back tomorrow, same time with Frank. Everybody out there, be safe. That's it. We're out of here.